on the screen. Well, we've had numerous pros be banned, and even when they're banned for things which are kind of up, the way that they're banned is so messed up. So I Will Dominate was banned for toxicity, too many toxic reports, right? Except he wasn't. The actual timeline of that was what they caught him for after the fact, like catching Al Capone on his fucking taxes. They couldn't catch I Will Dominate for what he did, so they had to punish him for some other shit with a witch hunt. He said the story himself. He went to Riot with I'm a Cutie Pie, we're back with their Indignitas, and they were showing some like new skins or something, new character design skins for some of the champions. And I Will Dominate apparently didn't know that the designer was in the room or something, and so him and Cutie were just fucking around. They were just riffing like, oh, look at this shit, like what the fuck is that one? That's so dumb, that one. Like, and apparently this woman who designed one of the skins was like ran out of the room crying like, oh. And then when one of these guys, I don't know, Mark Merrill, someone heard it, they were like, this will not stand. A woman at Riot has been made to feel bad. We're a couple of years from perfecting that formula. This will not stand. And so he sent his little fucking minions out there to find a way to get I Will Dominate. And you know what? He got him. And they banned him from pro play for an entire year. And then later on, the reason Dominant didn't come out with that story for years is, guess what? After seeing how a lot of people in esports were treated, I would speculate that he felt some concern over what the repercussions might be if he spoke out against this sort of shit. I mean, you'd just seen Groscore get fucking permanently banned off Twitch for saying something about Crepo, which we've now found out, I knew at the time, was actually true, had actually happened. He was actually doing that fucked up shit and he was banned for saying the truth. Fucked up some sexual innuendo to you. As a result, it not only was so bad that all these people came forwards and leaked all this info to Kotaku journalists of all things, who were about some of the most scumfuck people in the universe, but even worse than that, there's now apparently going to be a planned walkout because there haven't been enough tangible changes in the company that the people do the walkout feel as though they've actually changed that culture. They feel as though Riot just gives themselves a little slap on the wrist. Nah, we won't do that again. Nah, we'll fix that out. Was he tapping your balls? I'll have a word with him. I'll tell him not to do that. Farting in your face as well. Right, okay, there's one. Is there anything else he's doing? There's a lot of things on this list. We've got to go fuck Thorin in about 5 minutes. Then you got the fact, go and look at some of the casters. So how about when Monte Cristo worked for OGN with LCK, right? Now, everyone who's saying, he should just be grateful to be hired to a Riot event like Worlds or MSI. That's because you're a little fucking cock who doesn't know anything about the industry or how jobs and markets work and actually thinks that it's Riot who had the leverage over Monty there. Riot desperately needed Monty for those tournaments. Otherwise, they would be like this MSI is going to be. Like 50 fucking... It's like going... This MSI is going to be like going into an ice cream shop and the guy has 50 flavours of vanilla and it's all just slightly different hints of it. And one of it has a tiny little bit of mint in the corner, if you get that scoop. Instead, Monty was like the fucking raspberry ripple, or he was like the fucking lemon sorbet, totally different to the vanilla ice cream, and so an essential contrast for Riot events, right? All these different regions. Now, the only knock on him, quite frankly, at the time of when he was a coach, was this notion that, he just goes and talks to his Korean friends in the Korean scene about their meta, their picks, and how their scrims are going. How the fuck is that a knock? That's amazing reconnaissance information that he was able to apply and even bring in a bloody Korean and actually win championships using it. Listen, there's plenty of people who could go watch all the scrims and all the shit and get all the info from an LPL team and not apply it with their team or do anything. I see it all the fucking time, weekly basis, when I have some of these guys on my show and they're talking absolute nonsense and I'm telling them shit like, why are you telling me TSM's going to do the best at Worlds because they have a good style in LCS? Like, it ain't going to happen. Look at the group. Oh, that aged like fine fucking wine. Because one of the side effects of psychedelics can often be the feeling that the real world of the inner eye, the imagination, whatever, is more vivid and real than actual reality that's coming into you from your 5 senses. That's why people have that. So why I would have schizophrenia, because I made fun of Smiths when he was shit in his worst possible role and as a meme. But then I've made a real analysis that people have gone too far, because what was the context that I was talking about here? When they announced that lineup, everyone was like, Smiths is shit. Smiths could never be a good support player. Smiths can't even play at a pro level, which again, that is going too far. Like, I've never said that about Smiths. I never said he couldn't play in G2 at a pro level. I thought he had to do a different role, and eventually I hoped he'd move down to an LDLC type team or another squad and help some youngsters come up. Definitely never said that. So actually, what I've said is in no way incongruent with my previous opinions. Here's another tweet. It's from this year. Put it this way. Take any godlike player from history and give them Simple's team right now, and I doubt they even make semis of these tournaments. So this is at the period of time where Simple's almost won Star Series Season 4. He's made it to the final of DreamHack Marseille. Right, he was playing such a high-level game in terms of the eye test, doing everything. Stats said he was entering the most, he was winning the most clutches, he was getting the most kills, he was getting the best ratings. His raw stats in terms of rating, etc., were through the roof, unbelievable levels. Hence why even HLTV.org had to give him fucking MVPs on the losing team at these tournaments. So my point is a very clear one. As someone who's seen all the great players in history, the point I'm making is Simple's so outrageously hard carrying, and now, this is before Electronic really came online for Na'Vi, that even if you took Classic Get Right, Neo from 1.6, Kogu from 1.6, any of these players and put them in his position, all of myself and Fnatic, I don't think his team would make even the semis, because they were amazing players, but they couldn't just carry you every game. They wouldn't carry you every single game, literally. That's just hyperbole when we said that. Simple was literally doing that, and in every fucking category. So actually, yes, I do think that even with them on their team, they'd struggle to even make semis of these tournaments. He was making the finals every time, and sometimes coming close to winning, like at Star Series. Pretty good point, right? Let's see how they misunderstand this context, Bob. I'm convinced, 26 points, that I'm convinced Thorin just makes shit up all the time and hopes no one notices. What does it even mean? He's convinced I make shit up all the time, right? It's an opinion with context that's subjective to me. So yes, I did make up my opinion. Yes. Where do you get your opinions? God? Does the fucking little gnome at the end of your garden speak to you and tell your opinions? Nah, you make them up yourself, just like you made up this opinion. Current hot topics and great interviews. Twitter/event Thorin tries way too hard to be edgy and clever to the point it negatively impacts his viewership and reception on YouTube. First of all, the idea that I try way too hard, I don't, it's very easy for me, mate. All my tweets are throwaway shit that I just fire out there because their opinion's not worth putting in an article, in a video, in something really good. They are literally the trash heap of my opinions. They're just things that either I think a random hot take at this moment, because guess what, I'm like everyone else, I'm allowed to have an opinion in the moment that doesn't have to be super well researched, because it's not in my fucking work, is it? It's no journalistic integrity involved. Then you got to look at the fact that he says I try way too hard. I don't. It's very easy for me to be edgy and clever or whatever you think it is. So if you think I'm trying to, then you just don't vibe with my personality. Fine, move on with your fucking life. But you can't. You're obsessed with still watching and reading and consuming it all and giving you comment. 5 points. This is really embarrassing in my opinion. Severely lacking communication from SK management. 24 points. Bet SK doesn't even care. LMAO. Contract's ending, so might as well milk some last from the cow. Right, the idea that just because the contract's ending, like SK is not allowed to sign new sponsors and do deals with them, including while they still have players under contract they're paying an ungodly inflated amount to per month to use their likeness. What, they're supposed to go, oh, well, they're leaving soon, so while you're still under contract, I won't use your likeness. I'm so greedy trying to milk the last money out of the cow. By the way, if you want to talk about people milking money out of the team and behaving in an unethical manner, how about the SK players not even wearing jerseys of a team paying them their salaries? Then when he says it's really embarrassing, no, the really embarrassing part and the lack of communication is on Fallen's part, because he didn't even Google SK Gaming and then the name of the company in question, because if he had, the second link down was there's the partnership being announced between SK Gaming and this particular sponsor. So if he'd have just Googled it before he did his tweet, he could have found out that his team was sponsored by it. He's the one who didn't put in any effort to actually find out who sponsors him and just came out and basically talked mad shit on someone who was sponsoring his team, which is part of how his team SK got the money to pay him his salary every month, and just was really unprofessional, quite frankly. The main person to blame here is absolutely Fallen. I can just put in the work, I can do the hours, I can play the way I should, and then I'll let the chips fall where it may. But let's be real. Sports is a performance business. It's about where you place it. Even nowadays, contracts are structured that way. Performance bonuses and how you get all your money from the contract. So quite frankly, it isn't really just that for most people. It's not just working diligently to improve. It's essentially an arms race against your competitors to see who can practice the most in the hopes that converts into results, which means you win. Now, my issue was how that part's also ignored, even though it's inferred within the concept of esports, especially if you're going to contrast regions, because now it's not just about are we playing correctly in the right way. No, it's about, is our region better? Are we better than them? Are we winning? Are they losing? Are we winning? So people talk and they say all these glib statements like, it's about working smarter rather than harder. Right? Everyone who says that, I've never seen them able to do it. I've never seen them able to work less hours, but work so much smarter that they massively outperform their rivals and all became the best in the world. I've never heard of anyone actually doing that, by the way. I've heard some stories that were like maybe alluded to it, but I've never seen anyone consistently do it and beat the people who just practice and grind like a motherfucker. The grinders are the ones in history are the most successful.
Now, you'll notice someone could have come along in the Chinese or Korean system and made this different team house where they were nice to players and they were like, we're going to work smarter rather than harder. And if that was a real thing, and you sports psychology trainers, which is not a big thing in the East, by the way, they could have used all this and then they could have outperformed everyone and beaten them and win, just like you would in business, right? Instead of competing, you go elsewhere, you do your specialist shit that no one else can do as well as you, and you just destroy the whole market, right? You create your own market. No, it's never been done. No one's ever even come close to doing it. What you find is the people who grind, even to seemingly inhuman levels, mega outperform the Western players and the other teams and players, and so their inputs yield the outputs of their results. You might not like the way they get the results, but they do get those outputs. Now look at the Western system. Our inputs yield our results. Now listen, you're welcome to say maybe there's less players, all less players trying to be professional, or maybe the players just aren't as good in the West. That's a different discussion to have. I'm just saying, all things being equal, if you only look at the way they practice, their practice methods produce better results. It's not political to say that. It's not expedient, is it? It's not nice to say that people burn out, or to even imply, like, if you don't like it, get out. Yeah, it's not nice. But that's the nature of competition, right? Remember, sports are a proxy for war. And in war, no matter what people tell you about rules and warcraft, in war, you kill the other guy so that he doesn't kill you and yours. That's it. You don't do it but in a nice way or a fair way, or like this would be dishonest, or this. No. At that point, it's kill or be killed. And so you make sure you're the one who does the killing instead of being killed. That's why those lines are actually like bullshit if you think about it. It's like learned helplessness where they go, I'll die for my country. No. The premise is, will you kill the other guy for yours? That's the winner's mentality. A loser's the one who says, I died for my country, and I died. Like, you can win when they're not the best. And oftentimes the narrative there isn't, well, they're the best. The narrative becomes wins over replacement. People love this terminology. I personally despise it. The logic goes, if you replaced that player with some sort of a league average player at their position, whatever role they play, then did that to all the other candidates, whose team would win the least games, that's your MVP. Now, there is a kind of a logic to that, but I think it has a key flaw, and I have the reason I have a preference against it. I think it massively skews the award to teams who are not the best. In fact, I think whereas the other one's like, well, whoever the best on that team is must be the MVP. This goes almost the other way. It goes, who has the absolute worst team that this guy playing really well could somehow get like sort of the more games than they should, but even then maybe not the most games. So a flaw there is the contrast is too crazy between the two, and there's no real middle overlap, and they're too extreme, but they obviously infer something about each other. Obviously, you could be incredible on a bad team and way better than the guy who wins, but you could also be like really, really good on a super awful team, but not as good as a godlike player on also not the best team, but a really good team. These things, you could win in dominant fashion if you're on that team. Like in this scenario, just barely winning would make you the absolute best as the absolute godlike player, whereas being a really, really amazing, super excellent player on an awesome team that didn't win as well, in this scenario, you're caught between the two, aren't you? You don't really get to win in the same kind of way. So there's a massive flaw, I think, overall. What's doing his stats? And so we went with all that fuckery. The worst version of this, in my opinion, is when they do a pure 1-for-1 with a past season, as though that is wins over replacement, and then say, right, that shows that he's the best. Because a classic example was when people were trying to big up Scottie Pippen when it was the season he got to take over from Michael Jordan in 1994, when they'd won the 3 championships, that Michael Jordan retired, maybe because of what happened with his dad, maybe because of, snake eyes. Well, that'd be you lose, but which apparently he did a lot. So that could have also been the reason why, right? The reason why that never worked is what they would always say is that one line they'd go, how come the Bulls lost the greatest player of all time and they only lost 2 games extra the next season? Doesn't that mean like he wasn't even... No, because the reason why that's whack is what they always ignore in all these season examples like that, or when you just change the team, is you're in a different time period now, playing against slightly different teams that have the foreknowledge of what happened before. Your players might be older, their players might have reached age. On this particular team, by the way, they had, let me see what it was, I think it was something like 6 different players joined the team that weren't there when Michael Jordan was there. So you had players that were actually players that were important players, like Steve Kerr, the shooter. You had Pete Myers, who actually was the replacement shooting guard for Michael Jordan. You had Tony Kukoc, one of the best European players. You had Luke Longley, who played the role of centre. You had Corey Blunt, who, yes, was just some bench guy, and there's some Johnson guy was also in that. The Beatles said they get by with a little help from their friends, but I get by with a little help from my Patreon community. And this video was kindly supported by Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Ahmed Hadjou, Bot Pounder 420, Torin, Animosity, Tobias Bernasconi, Jensen Goh, Tosh, and a special thanks always goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to ask me a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers to find out who are the upcoming guests? Maybe you want to take part in one of those lengthy but intense esports discussions I have with my donators, or maybe you want to suggest a guest or a topic that I could cover. Well, if any of those tickle your fancy, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where in the description box below there is a Patreon link.